I grew up as a PlayStation kid. It has been the predominant console in my gaming adventure, my gaming life. It was PlayStation consoles, and that's mainly because, I got into gaming mainly because of my father, and my father was a PlayStation guy. My first ever console, my first ever handheld actually was the PSP. Um, and I got the PlayStation Vita as well. One of my birthdays was the year the PS Vita was released. My whole birthday was about me getting the Vita. Right? Like my parents, for some reason, had told me that you're getting the Vita for your birthday. You know, like a couple weeks before. And that was the big thing. I was like, oh my god, I get the Vita on my birthday. And then I got the Vita on my birthday, and I was so excited, and I just played that thing nonstop. So the PlayStation has had a big mark on my life. I mean, before, whenever I would go out with my parents, like, to malls or shopping or whatever, even though, like, people's houses and stuff, I would always have my PSP or my Vita there because at the time, that was my big thing of entertainment. This was before I got a phone, and when now I have a phone, my phone's my source of entertainment. But before that, it was, I would take my Vita and PSP pretty much everywhere and play it. Even school, even when it came to school, on like getting dropped off before school, I would be playing my PSP or Vita. Then I get to school and I would hide it under some covers we had in the back seat. And then when I came out of school, I would immediately go for the under the covers to get my PSP and Vita and play it again. Like they were a big part of my life. And then there's the consoles. I grew up watching my dad play games on PS2, PS3, and then as I got older and started getting more into gaming, those were the consoles I played on. Then PS4, PS5. It's gone on. We always have gotten the PlayStation consoles, always. So being a PlayStation kid, being a PlayStation gamer in general, has just been a part of me. That's how it's always been. And for the most part, I think Sony does a fantastic job. Obviously, there's some bias there with their console. Every now and then they'll make a stupid decision, but every company does that. But the one feature that they have not really delved into, that pretty much every other gaming company has, that beats PlayStation, is backwards compatibility. They still to this day have not understood the appeal and the general idea of backwards compatibility, which is a shame because that's something that both Nintendo and Xbox have leaned into and has reaped the benefits of. Let's go into Nintendo. When you talk about backwards compatibility, a big one I think of is how you can play Wii games on the Wii U, which that is a big idea. It makes sense. The Wii U is meant to be the successor to Wii, so it makes sense that it would play the previous console's games. And they share pretty much the same name. But if I had known about the backwards compatibility between Wii and Wii U games, I guarantee you I would have been playing the Wii U more than I did, and I played the Wii U a lot. But I would have played it a lot more if I knew. And I have a Wii, so I could just put. You're probably thinking about that. Well, if you have a Wii, why would you use the Wii U? Well, what if you don't? What if someone doesn't have a Wii? They have a Wii U. They want to play Wii games. Okay, you're not left out. You can just pop them into your Wii U, and it goes into Wii mode, and you can play the games. You can use the Wii U, the Wii controller, and the Wii U supports that, and there you go. Boom, you can play Wii games. And I know, as someone who has, as I've gotten more into gaming and my game collection has grown, my Wii collection was very small at first. there's like maybe like 2 or 3 games I would play at most on the Wii. So my collection for the Wii was very small, but ever since I discovered the backwards compatibility of the Wii U, my Wii collection has grown because I knew I don't have to keep taking out my Wii and hooking it up to the TV to play games. I can just hook up the Wii U, which is much better, because the Wii U support it's more modern tech, right? It's much easier to hook up the Wii U than it is the Wii. And my Wii U is always hooked up to a TV, so it's very easy for me to just pop a game in. And my Wii collection, like I said, has greatly expanded by taking advantage of the Wii U backwards compatibility. Another backwards compatibility is for the Wii itself. You could play GameCube games. So if you had a GameCube games, you could play them on the Wii. And it's much harder now to get a GameCube. Because it's so freaking, it's one of the, it's legendary console. But pretty much everyone has a Wii. You probably have a Wii and you don't even know about it, but you have a Wii somewhere. So being able to pop in a GameCube game and play it on the Wii must have been great. I mean, the Wii supports GameCube controllers. So does the Wii U. The Wii U supports GameCube controllers as well. They have an adapter that you could buy. So, I mean, to this day, Nintendo still makes GameCube controllers because they still work. Even on the Switch, they still support GameCube controls. But I just, it's great that, obviously it's not a waste to buy the game for the console, right? Like buying a GameCube game to play on the GameCube, it's not like a waste of that. But it's just to know that, yeah, I can still play this. I don't always have to constantly keep, like I said, taking out the GameCube to play it. I can just pop it in the Wii if I had the Wii out. I think that's really cool, and it shows that, they still care about the previous console in a way by saying, hey, you can play the old console games on here too, which I think is very nice. Speaking of backwards compatibility, we need to talk about the Switch 2, the next console. As it has already been stated that the next console, the quote-unquote Switch 2, will be supporting Switch games. So that's another great idea because it, obviously many people have a Switch. But, it's a nice idea that, again, not completely forgetting the previous console, that it's still going to support your old Switch games, So you can, maybe you have, too much memory on your Switch. Well, and you got a new Switch game, and it's like, God damn, I don't want to delete anything on my Switch. Just put it in your Switch 2, your new Switch 2 console, and right as rain, works just as fine. I think that is a great idea. The next idea is, of course, we have Xbox's backwards compatibility. Xbox has also backwards compatibility in pretty much all their consoles: 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. I remember a friend of mine who he was an Xbox guy. And look at that, I was a PlayStation guy, he was an Xbox guy, and we were still friends because, you could have different opinions and still be friends with someone. Because at the end of the day, we were gamers. We like games. But I remember one day I would come over to his house. I went over to his house, and he's playing on his Xbox. And he plopped in an old Sonic game from the 360. And I was like, "What? That works?" And he goes, "Yeah, that works." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." I thought that was cool that, he only had the one Xbox. It was, I believe it was an Xbox One. He only had the one Xbox One, and it just worked. And I was like, that's cool. He's like, yeah, I just buy all the old games, and I don't need to buy the other systems to play it. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. Wish I had something like that. But it's such a good idea. And the Xbox has gone more further than I think Nintendo has, because Nintendo usually it's like the previous console support, but Xbox has done every console. You can play Xbox, from original Xbox games, you can play them on your Series X and S. For example, someone wants to get into Max Payne The voice actor sadly passed away recently, so someone wants to get into Max Payne because of that. Well, you don't gotta go buy an old Xbox. You can just buy the game and then slot it into your X and S, and hey, look, it works. Presto! Isn't that a great idea? I think that's a great idea. Now, speaking of the backwards compatibility for PlayStation, again, they do have some backwards compatibility for the PS5, but it's only for PS4 games, which is, again, very similar to what Nintendo does. So they have at least done that this time around for the PS5. You can just plug in PS4 games, and it'll still work. In fact, some PS4 games come with a free upgrade, where when you buy it, it's like you just slot this disc into your PS5, and you get a free upgrade to the PS5 version, which I think is a really nice idea. Another good thing about backwards compatibility is how much it also helps the customer. Because the big example is I wanted to get SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake, right? And I looked up and I'm like, okay, how much is it for the PS5, right? Because I got the PS5 now. That's going to be the main console we're going to buy games for. PS4 is sadly old news now. After PS5, that's the console. All games are going to go to that now, right? All new games go to that. So I looked up and the Cosmic Shake was like $50 on PS5. And I was like, oh, that's a bit too much for me. And I got curious and I checked for PS4, and the Cosmic Shake for PS4 is like $24. And I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. So I bought the Cosmic Shake for the PS4, and I got it way cheaper, and it comes with the PS5 upgrade. So I technically get the PS5 version anyway. So I can play it on two consoles if I want, right? So that idea, I think, is a great one that I think the PlayStation needs to explore more, like the free upgrade. And again, that just brings credence to the idea of bring more backwards compatibility, because it's more consoles I can play this game on. Now, there is PlayStation Plus, which does have old games, but that's a subscription service that you have to pay for, which, God, more and more subscription services, I know. But they do have PlayStation 1 games, they have PS3 games, PS4 games that you can play on PlayStation Plus. The problem with that, though, is it is digital. So, you're not technically owning it. So if you were sunk hours into a game and then PlayStation decided, yeah, we're going to remove that from PlayStation Plus, all your save, all that time, it's all gone. So it's not real backwards compatibility, There is backwards compatibility for the PS3, but that was a bit of a mistake. It wasn't really meant to happen. It was like PS3 had like extra ports that could play PS2 games, and that wasn't really meant to happen. I think you could also play some PS1 games too, and that wasn't really that was more of a happy little accident, because for the further models of the PS3, they took that away. They made sure to take that sucker away. You have what could be the future, right? If PlayStation really got into the idea of backward compatibility, I believe it would help them. It would be more inviting to people, that, hey, you could play I am expecting maybe the PlayStation 6 has more backwards compatibility. I would hope the PlayStation 6 would be backwards compatible with obviously PS5 games. PS4 games would be nice. PS3 games, PS2 games, that's more wishful thinking than anything. But it would be nice if they upgraded their hardware to include, you can play all the old previous PlayStation games on here, guys. So, dust off all those PS2 games, dust off your PS3 games, you can play them on the PlayStation 6, The PS5 Pro is not going to do anything, because that's just the enhanced PS5, so that's not going to do anything. So the PS6 is our best bet. But I think it's more inviting, It really is inviting that it's like backwards compatibility. It's like, yeah, you don't have to just, focus on this one console and be like, oh, this game is for this console and this, and it can only be used for that console. It's like, no, actually, our new one, you can also play it on that too. I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of backwards compatibility. It is such a nice, novel idea that more companies need to go into, and by more companies I mean PlayStation, because like I've mentioned, Nintendo and Xbox still have delved into the idea of backwards compatibility. Nintendo still is, because again, like I said, their next console, they've said it will support Switch games. And Xbox, probably for their next console, most likely, it's gonna do the same thing as the other ones, and you can play all your old Xbox games on it. So I would very much prefer for PlayStation 6 to take a page out of their book and be like, we should delve more into this backwards compatibility thing. Again, wishful thinking for PS6 to have backwards compatibility up to PS2. That's wishful thinking. I'm going to pray that it keeps at least PS5 and PS4 backwards compatibility. That's what we can at least be hopeful for. So yeah, I just wanted to make this nice, fun video talking about backwards compatibility and why I believe PlayStation needs and should delve more into backwards compatibility, because I believe it is an untapped market that they don't really go into, that I think they should. It is a very, very good idea.